Let us pray. Almighty God, the creator and ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our actions so that we may always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria in general and Lagos State in particular. Amen. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. You are all welcome to today's sitting. Let us go through the votes and proceedings of Monday, 23rd December 2019. Page 61. Page 62.
Mr. Speaker.
Page 63. Honorable Oluwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, fellow colleague. I saw my name on the absent list, and I remember we were together on the trip to Ibadan.
I can't hear what you are saying. Make use of the mic.
I saw my name on the absent list. I remember we were together on the trip to Ibadan that very day.
Oh yeah. Please kindly correct that. Himself and Honorable Makinde, Honorable Honorable Tunde Brahimo, and Honorable. Oh. Yes, Honorable Temitope.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's a different day, sir.
Oh, that is another.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it was with me in Abuja. So.
Yes, we must have been Abuja.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Tunde Brahimo. Page.
While the motion was being debated, we observed the House made an amendment entitled respect to five natural gas or five petroleum gas. And we agreed that it should be liquefied petroleum gas. Mr. Speaker, while this had been followed in the body of the motion, the title on page 4 or on page 62, item 4, is still reading liquefied natural gas.
On page what?
Page 62, item 4, sir. The title is still reading natural gas.
Page 62, that was the motion as it was presented.
As at then.
Yeah, so.
Okay, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Page 63, 64, 65. Honorable Abiru.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, good afternoon. On page 64, Mr. Speaker, under item 4, under the resolve,
Item 4 resolved.
yes, on page 64, sir.
Page 64.
Yes, sir. Under resolve, our resolve on that same
under
motion.
resolve, not
Yes, sir.
page, no, under item 4, not 4.
Yes, sir. Under item 4. Thank you very much, sir. The fourth item, the fourth resolution, I think what we agreed on here is to call the Commissioner for Mineral Resources to carry out its ministerial responsibilities as it relates to the regulation of LPG outlets in the state. It is not as it relates to licensing, because it is clear that it is DPR that does the licensing as it appears on the B immediately after.
Under resolve number 1, A1.
Yes, sir.
If you look at A1,
Yes, sir.
to enforce the provision of section 182
Yes,
Is
sir.
that not what you were referring to?
No, sir. The item 1 spoke about the what? The item 1 is clear. It is on the item 1 has to do with the environmental protection of.
Okay, what was your question?
Item 4.
Okay.
Where we called on the Commissioner of Energy and Mineral Resources
Okay.
to carry out its ministerial responsibilities as it relates to the regulation, not to the licensing, sir.
Okay.
The regulation.
Thank you.
Yes, in the state. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Clark, kindly do the needful. I have examined the votes and proceedings of Monday, 23rd December 2019, and approval is here granted. Any message from the governor?
Right, Honorable Speaker, distinguished honorable members, There is no message from Mr. Governor.
Any other announcements?
None, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Petitions?
None, Mr. Speaker,
Matter
sir.
of their public importance? None. Personal explanations? None. Reports? None. Business of the day. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, on the other paper we have House of Assembly motion number 10, proposed by Honorable Tobu M.A. and supported by other members, which include Honorable Abiru R.L., Honorable G.O.R O.L., Honorable Mrs. Shangodara R., Honorable Ogundimu, Honorable Yusuf A.A., Honorable Miranda M.L., Honorable Karim R.A., Honorable Makinde R.L., Honorable Rauf A.O. With the kind permission of Mr. Speaker, may I humbly invite Honorable Tobu M.A. to present his motion on the need to ensure good quality and condition of roads in the state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Tobu, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. My distinguished colleagues. Need to ensure good quality and condition of road in the state. This House note the effort of the state governments at providing quality and durable road across the state. Further note that in spite of the quantum of taxpayers' money that is usually being expended on the road maintenance and construction in the last 4 years, most of the roads that are constructed across the state by the local and foreign contractor are currently in bad condition, as the project delivery were either shortly carried out or totally abandoned after appreciable mobilization fee were paid by the government. Observe with dismay that money are often released to some contractor without due process, while some of the contractors have multiple contract award without requisite competence or experience to handle such projects. Further observe that the issue of right of way and expired advance payment guarantee APG are also responsible for poor management and non-execution of projects in the state. He is concerned that while contractors continue to abandon or do shoddy projects in the state, the Ministry of Justice and other relevant agencies are yet to enforce compliance of the statutory provision of Chapter 31, Section 3104 of the Financial Regulations, which states that where a contractor or a supplier who is paid mobilization fee for a job failed to perform after collecting the fee, he shall be given 30 days notice to refund the money, failing which the mobilization fee shall be recovered en bloc from the contractor or supplier, and such contractor shall be blacklisted or referred to the Economic and Financial Crime Commission for prosecution. He is further concerned that no sooner some roads are rehabilitated in the state than heavy duty vehicle of some notable companies and corporations ply these roads with utmost disregard for the capacity of the road and without any iota of corporate social responsibilities on the consequential damage done to such road across the state. Resolve to call on Mr. Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State, as a matter of urgency to direct, one, that the State Treasury Office, STO, to ensure that contractors are not paid mobilization fee without properly executing contract agreements and valid advance payment guarantee. Two, that the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure to ensure that the right of way is secured and project site is free from any encumbrances before money is released to contractors. Three, that the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure and the General Manager Public Procurement Agency to ensure that only contractors with requisite expertise, equipment, manpower, and experienced should be awarded road construction contracts, and those who fail to meet up with the project execution as contained in the contract agreement are sanctioned and blacklisted. 4, that the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure to ensure that identify companies with which vehicles are responsible for excessive pressure on roads meant for lighter freight in the state should be made to bring their corporate social responsibility on such roads. And 5, finally, that the Special Advisor on Works and Infrastructure to ensure that project engineers maintain quality supervision and that defaulting contractor are appropriately sanctioned. I so move.
Honorable Akande.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved.
All in favor say ayes. Those against no. The ayes have it. Well, Honorable Tabo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Sir, we have observed in the last 4 years in the state that most of our roads are non-motorables. And we observe the quantum of money expended so much on that road. We discovered that after having a meeting with the executive, the MDAs, we were made to believe that most of those funds released to those contractors were not serving the purpose, because most of the contractors will collect that money without the right of way fully delivered by Ministry of Physical Planning. So money being in the possession of the contractor for more than 6 months. So when the right of way is eventually delivered, the contractor will either do a shoddy job or bolt away with the money. This we feel is inimical, looking at the taxpayers' money. And as a responsible parliament, representative of the people, looking at the quantum of money spent, we feel this motion must come up so that the contractor, whoever is going to take any job from Lagos State, must be ready to do it and must have the competence to be able to deliver to time. Then secondly, sir, we discovered that most of our roads that were being plied by this articulated vehicle that belongs to the corporate world, they were the one damaging our roads. And most times, they show no concern to this road. For example, the Ikorodu roads, Ebute roads, you will see the trucks parking both right and left. And when you go to Epe Road, going from Ibejuleki to Epe, the road is in a bad shape. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I must tell you that the rate at which they are killing people on those roads is becoming alarming. Yesterday, just yesterday, the third in command to the Oba of Epe died on that road, 4 of them, because of these articulated vehicles. And these roads were bad. In the course of dodging for potholes, they either swap into the forest or they were crushed by this contractor. So, then by these trucks. So the problem now is the contractor not doing the job when they collect money or doing the shoddy jobs. The issue of right of way, the issue of APG is there. Then the issue of not performing the corporate social responsibilities on the part of those corporate entities that were operating those big trucks is equally very much available. And the government cannot do it all alone. This is where you make money. This is where you do business. Road done for lighter vehicles or buses were the one being plied by these heavy trucks. So we cannot leave government to do it all alone. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I feel this motion should come up so that the House can unanimously agree on the way forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Yishawu.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and members of this House. I thank the prime mover of this motion. Very, very important, Mr. Speaker. There must be quality, value for the money. Mr. Speaker, you are part of those who commissioned Kudrati Abiola Road. so many years ago. Today, from the first point of the road to the end, you cannot see one pothole. And it was constructed about 14 years ago. That's one. Mr. Speaker, a road was constructed in our constituency, not quite long, a Greek road specifically. It was not completed, the money has been paid, and within 2 months, even those who were supposedly commissioned were totally bad. Till now, no FECU can pile that very road, a Greek road specifically, sir. What I'm going to ask and add, Mr. Speaker, is that there was a period along the Ikorodu road that if these articulated FECUs are going, they normally have a point where they weigh the load compared to the road. So I think that one can be brought in, Mr. Speaker, so that any FECU that is, the density is more than that of the road can be banned from piling the road. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Olowo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague, good afternoon. I want to appreciate the prime mover of this motion. Mr. Speaker, I want to dwell more on the APG. Many of our contractors always, for those that do not love our state, we both away, abandoned the projects and nothing happened. Many a time we have resorted to calling on the Ministry of Works at ensuring that the APG is revalidated whenever it's expired. But today and to date, we have not actually seen a serious commitment from them and the respective Minister of Justice as well. So, Mr. Speaker, Lagos State is losing a lot of money because of the expiration of our APGs and our insurance bond, which ordinarily supposed to be alive till the end of the project. So my take would be that the mover said we should call on SKO attention that they give them money for mobilization. It's not only mobilization. At every stage of the project, where they need to get subsequent payments, the APG must be alive. Because if you mobilize them, if at the end of the day, in the course of that project, the APG gets expired for one reason or the other, and the contractor failed to finish the project, obviously, we will lose the money. But when the APG is alive, the project will be able to activate our call on the bank to get us the outstanding amount. So, Mr. Speaker, my colleague, we want the prayers of the mover to be moderated a bit in such a manner that it will not be only for mobilization fee, but other subsequent payments in the life of the projects. Because many projects in Lagos today failed because of the expiration of APG. So one of the reasons why and how we can get our contractors to be on their toes is that ensuring that in the life of the project they are handling, the APG must be reactivated before subsequent payment is made to them. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Laiwala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and my colleagues. Beside the issue raised, I think we need to call our attention to the issue of blocked drains too. Mr. Speaker, we noticed that some of these potholes that we see on our highways are as a result of the uncare attitude of our people. I will cite the case of my constituency, G.O.R as well as Moshalachie to be specific. It's noticed that incessant dropping of waste on the road result into a blockage of our highways. So we need to sensitize the mind of our people on this issue. And the sitting of our roads, our drainage, is very, very important too, sir. Secondly, the contractors, we need to call them to order. They need to sign an undertaking that any road that they construct as a result of their negligence, that they should be brought to book, sir. Then thirdly, sir, the neighborhood watch. I think the intelligence aspect of neighborhood watch should be brought to book. They need to really be active. It should work hand in hand with the other security agencies that any trailers, any motor that really default, that really causes problem on the road, they need to bring our attention to it so that security agency will do the needful. Thanks so much, sir.
Honorable Ogundewu.
Speaker. Well,
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I totally agree with the motion, but there is something that was missed out. In the course of reviewing this issue of the contractors on our roads, sometimes with Honorable Tobu, the Chairman of Works, we discovered that most of the contractors also move to site without contract agreement, which also is the only basic thing that we can actually hold them responsible for everything that has been mentioned here. The Ministry of Justice need to be called upon so that the contract agreement must always be in place before the commencement of any contract job. This will really tie them to whatever thing that they must have agreed upon, and it will make them to compel, it will make us to be able to compel them to work to rules. So that is just my only observation. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Setonji.
thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker. I really appreciate the prime mover of this motion because it is very, very apt. But there is something that Honorable Yusuf was mentioning, and that is the issue of weighing bridge. Some years ago, we used to have weighing bridge at some point in Lagos. And what is the work of weighing bridge? It makes sure that vehicles that are overloaded, the weight of them are reduced. Overloading is one of the problems that we have in Lagos. For instance, in my own constituency, vehicles coming from Republic of Benin, they usually come, when they obey the law from their own country. When they get to Nigeria, they will now load the same vehicle twice because we have no regulation. So weighing bricks too is also very important. It will make sure that the articulated vehicles are carrying the appropriate load. Now the issue of ROW2, that is right of way, is also very key. That the Ministry of Physical Planning have been a kind of impediment in giving the contractors right of way. So the Ministry of Works needs to ensure that that one has been resolved before you give contract to contractor and give them mobilization money. And as included in the resolve, I think I absolutely support this. Thank you, sir.
I think we have three major items in this motion. One is calling all our agencies to be alive to their responsibility, and for the contractors to do an enduring job that is durable enough, while we also call on a corporate organization making use of our roads to also play their own social responsibility role. I think it's a straightforward one. Before we start repeating what others have said, and besides that, in the motion we've not been able to identify these specific operators who are overburdening our roads. So you can't just, raise issue without target specific organization, except if in the motion, the prime mover of the motion will have to tell us those that because at the end of the motion, the need for us to pass whatever we resolve on to. So without making mention of such person.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Majorly is Dangote. Dangote is the one, is the major, user of the articulated vehicles. Is the one damaging most of our roads. Sincerely, sir. But all the roads in Ekpe, both from Ijebode to Ekpe, from Talking to Ekpe, from Lekki to Ekpe, Ikorodu Road is Dangote. But is Dangote, sir? Is Dangote? Is Dangote, sir?
Aladi Dangote is destroying your road. His vehicles.
You know what happened in Papa, sir? Is Dangote majorly, sir? Then
the truck, is it Aladi Dangote or his truck, his complete truck?
It's Dangote trucks, Dangote cement, Dangote group of companies. They are the one damaging most of our roads, sir. So the trucks, so numerous, sir. And if you see the way they drive on the road, sir, the drivers, it's Dangote, Dangote refinery, sir. It's Dangote, sir.
I hope you don't have issue with this man, Honorable Tobo.
I didn't have any issue, sir, but the man
it's not Dangote, but Dangote group of companies.
Companies, Dangote group of companies.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir. Yes,
that is very clear. Is it the only operators, plying that route?
Then the free trade zone, there is a free trade zone.
Yeah.
Those operating in the free trade zone, their vehicles too are so numerous, and they are not willing to assist the state or the community in any form.
Ikorodu, is it Pakodo or what do they call it?
Pakodo.
From the ports, is it the same Dangote group of companies?
Yes. Majorly is Dangote, it's the Dangote group of companies.
Honorable SOB. See, the mic guy is not working.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to affirm that most of the articulated vehicles on Sekumade Road, the road from the Lagos Road intersection up to the light terminal, is plied mostly by articulated vehicles belonging to Dangote group of companies. And Mr. Speaker, the road is so bad, and despite that, you see trailers with containers still plying this road. If you have to drive past, you'll be praying fervently that this does not overstep on vehicle. It is always a daily harrowing experience for people that apply the road, and nothing has been done particularly to that. I think, Mr. Speaker, this motion is just calling for value for money in respect of roads in Lagos State, and I join my voice with those who have said it. Thank you, sir.
Well, I think the prime mover has dropped the hint, so we know where to direct our motion to. So, just adopt what we have here if there is no amendment to it. Except we have someone that wants to suggest an amendment to what we have here. Honorable Nureni, you have amendment. You want to suggest?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please, what I believe in, sir, is...
Can you put off your lights, please? Put off your lights. Honorable Saka.
Mr. Speaker, sir, please, what I say is, please, why can't we do it this way, sir, or emphasize on the agreement? When we have agreement will talk about everything, that even retention, sir. If you look at the retention, agreement can talk on retention, that you should not be paying retention, your retention, 30% retention on so time, The agreement will talk about the work, the life, the what do you call the duration, and the centimeter, what do you call they will use for the road. Some can be 5 inches, some 1 inches, some 6 inches. So agreement, I believe we should. Why can't we talk about the agreement and mention that the agreement will be followed to the letter? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is one of the number. Is number one of the prayer. It's number one of the prayer. We should adhere to the contractual agreements, and the agreement should come first before mobilizing the contractors. So, Honorable Tobo, your final. This has resolved.
Thank you very much, sir. Since there is no other subtraction, I want to toe the line of necessary.
Resolve, start from resolve, call of resolve.
The House resolve to call on the Governor of the State, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, the Governor of Lagos, as a matter of urgency, to direct the State Treasury Office to ensure that the contractor are not paid mobilization fees without properly executing contract agreements and valid advance payment guarantee at all stages of payment. 2, that the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure to ensure that the right of way is secured and project site is free from any encumbrances before money is released to contractors. 3, that the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure and the General Manager, Public Procurement Agency, to ensure that only the contractors with requisite expertise, equipment, manpower, and experience should be awarded roads construction contract. And those who fail to meet up with the project execution as contained in the contract agreement are sanctioned and blacklisted. 4, that the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure to ensure that identified companies, especially Dangote Group of Companies, which vehicles are responsible for excessive pressure on road meant for lighter vehicles in the state, should be made to bring their corporate social responsibility on such roads. And finally, the Special Advisor on Works and Infrastructure to ensure that project engineers maintain quality supervision and that the defaulting contractor are appropriately sanctioned. I so move.
Honorable Victor Akande.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion as moved.
All in favor say ayes. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Laying of reports, Honorable Yishawu. Before that, hold on, Honorable Yishawu, majority leader should amend the other paper.
Mr. Speaker, part of Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, laying of reports, we have Land Use Charge Amendment Bill 2019 also to be laid. Mr. Speaker, in view of the fact that we actually commence legislative activities on this bill in the 8th Assembly and we could not complete it, I wish to move that Section 95 of the Harmonized Rules of this House be activated so as to continue from where we stopped the last Assembly. I so move.
Honorable Naim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved.
All in favor say ayes. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Honorable Yishawu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Joint Committee of Appropriation and Finance, I hereby lay the report of the Joint Committee of Appropriation and Finance on the Appropriation Bill for the year 2020. I so lay.
Honorable Olowo.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, my colleague. I stand before you to lay a report of the six-man ad hoc committee on a bill for a law to amend the land use charge law 2018 and for connected purposes. I so lay.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, next on the other paper is presentation of reports, and we have two reports that have to be determined at the committee of the whole. In view of that, Mr. Speaker, may I humbly move that the House dissolve to committee of the whole to take the reports on unlawful encroachment of Andoyi Alashe Chieftaincy family land for the second allotted day, and also the bill for a law to amend the land use charge law 2018 by the Committee on Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I so move.
Honorable Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against no. The ayes have it. Honorable Akande.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do I start from, with the permission of Mr. Speaker? I wish to start from the further documents as required, as requested. Further documents, that's page 6. The committee sought and obtained the following document to buttress its finding. 1. From the documents submitted to the committee by the Civil Litigation Department, Ministry of Justice, on terms of settlement of 1976, number 57, volume 1550, schedule 1 and 2, it is clear that the state government is still indebted to some landowners, including Andoyi Alashe family, to the tune of 700,000, as at 31st August 1976. See Annex 12, pages 1 and 2 for clarifications. 2. From the Lagos State Land Tribunal judgment of 16th November 1981, which was between the Attorney General of Lagos State and the family. The sum of 208,250 naira was ordered to be paid as full compensation to the Alashe family in respect of the 229 acres acquired from the family. See Annex 13, pages 18, 19, and item 22. The sum 125 naira purportedly paid in by the government represented half of the total compensation due to the amount also represented compensation for 114.5 acres out of 229 acres acquired. The Land Tribunal judgment of 1981 further revealed that out of 5,000 acres of land acquired by the Old Western region, only 929.6 acres fall within the Ikeja and Badagry division of Lagos State, out of which 229 acres belong to Andoyi Alashe Chieftaincy family. See Annex 13, pages 1, 2, and 3 and 4. It is expressly stated in the Land Tribunal judgment of 1981, I quote, "The Public Land Acquisition Miscellaneous Provisions Decree 1976 was significantly designed to solve problems relating to the assessment of compensation for lands compulsorily acquired for the public purposes of the Federation or a state acquiring authorities will therefore do well to bear this in mind instead of inflicting undue hardship on owners of land so acquired." Further findings. 1. The 143,125 naira purported to have been paid by the government as compensation represent half of the total compensation due to the family as ordered by the Lagos State Land Tribunal judgment of 1981, which further represented 114.5 acres of land. 2. Out of the 5,000 acres acquired by the government of Old Western region, only 929.6 acres fall within Ikeja and Badagry division of Lagos State, out of which 229 acres belong to Andoyi Alashe family, and there was no other proof or document from Land Bureau to show that any other compensation was paid to the family. Recommendations, sir. After evaluation of the oral and documentary evidence tendered, the committee recommends as follows: that in view of the finding of 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 9 and 10 and 11, Andoyi Alashe family should take permanent possession of the 25 plots of land in contention. 2, the Office of Surveyor General should, as a matter of urgency, approve the survey plan by Andoyi Alashe Chieftaincy family on the 25 plot of land in contention. 3, all necessary documents in respect of the 25 plots of land in contention be approved to Andoyi Alashe family by the relevant agencies of government, including Land Bureau. Further recommendations, sir. The House should call on Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the Governor of Lagos State, to ensure that where lands and property acquired for overriding public interest are not used for the intended purposes and compensation were not paid, such lands should be returned to the original owners from whom they are acquired. 8, appreciation. On behalf of the committee, I wish to express our sincere appreciation to Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Obasa, for the confidence reposed in us to carry out this exercise. My appreciation also extends to the clerk of the House and the secretariat staff for successful completion of this assignment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Honorable Tabu.
Thank you, sir. I want to move that the report as presented be adopted for debate.
Honorable Nani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion.
All in favor say ayes. Those against nay, the ayes have it. I think from deliberation that took place during the first presentation of this report, so those that had a contrary view in respect of the supported documents, so can we have your comments now? If the additional documents satisfy our Honorable Agunbiade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am one of those that vehemently, oppose recommendations on the first allotted day on the ground that we do not have sufficient facts disclosed to support the recommendations proposed by the committee. And Mr. Speaker, in justification of that position, the committee has done well to further annex documents showing further proof in support of their recommendation. For instance, Mr. Speaker, on the first allotted day, the committee's position was clearly to the effect that the parcel of land in contention is not part of the land acquired by the government of Western Region, without any particular clear justification to resolve as such. And I keep wondering, and they also made assertion in the last report that the official gazette of 1958 of 5,000 hectares acquired did not cover the 25 plots of land, whereas no official gazette was exhibited. So I keep wondering where they got that information from. But from the one they have exhibited, Mr. Speaker, I see that there is a gazette of 1958, which though mention bearings of land acquired within Ikeja and Badagry, but no clear expression as to the location of such land and the measurement in such location. By and large, Mr. Speaker, I am persuaded, even on the first day, that even where land is acquired by a government for overriding public interest, such acquisition will be defeated where such land is now used for personal, private purposes instead of devolving the reversionary interest to the landowners. In view of that, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that since both the government and the petitioner who are asserting that the land belongs to them, the law is that he who asserts must prove, and they have to some extent shown some act of ownership by fencing, by well, and by possession of the land somehow. I feel that I am persuaded a bit, not entirely convinced, but in such a dilemma, we can resolve in the interest of the original landowners who, even if their land was acquired, the land is now being dissipated for personal interest instead of overriding public interest. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Just to correct what you have said, that you are only persuaded in bits and not in totality. Listening to the chairman, that the state agency responsible for land matters was invited, and from what he said, there was nothing to the contrary from the state to suggest that the petitioner are not true owner of the land in question. So I don't know where you want to give the balance of your conviction to. So if you are only, if you are only be confused,
no, Mr. Speaker.
No problem. I just let's it. We dealing with an issue of this nature, we need to be clear. If the chairman of the committee has not invited the state agency to come up with their own report and position, it will have been a different case. But in this case, they were invited, they were part of the exercise, and they have not said anything contrary. So we are left with no choice than to identify with what the committee has presented. Honorable Abiru.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well, I want to appreciate all that has been said. And I raised a number of issues at the last sitting. And even with the document, this further document, you know, which has just been distributed this morning, it's quite a volume.
We can't hear you. If you need
Yes,
the mic, please,
can you provide me with the mic, please? Hello, hello. Hello. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I want to appreciate further documents provided by the committee. But for me, in the report, emphasis is being laid on some 25 plots of land, you know, and in all of these documents that are presented, what I can see here is talking about 229 acres, talking about 114.5 acres. The supporting documents are quite voluminous, and they are also not very clear. So I can't really go through what is here. But again, I would just want the chairman to relate the 25 plots of land that is sorting the approval of this house for. You should just relate 25 plots of land to this further document. Maybe that will make everything very clear to me. Personally, I cannot see the relationship.
To do what?
I said the prayer of the committee is as regards a 25 plot of land. And this further document that has been presented to us speaks to 229 acres and 114.5 acres. The petition brought to the House itself is in respect of 16,000 square meters, you know. So for me, and again, like I said these documents has just been given, they're not very clear. I can't really read them here. But taking what he has said, I just want him to relate the 25 plots to this further document so it can be clear. Because the entire land that the petition was brought before the House is 16,000 square meters. And what this further document is talking about is 229 hectares. And so,
Mr. Chairman,
thank
can you
Hello? Thank you, sir. At the last meeting, at the last plenary, I was asked to justify whether the land is part of the global acquisition because they did not take the Lagos State government to court. That was what you asked me to justify that day. And fortunately, one of the documents that the Attorney General himself took to land tribunal was there. Without conceding, if the total acquisition of that land is 229, and that 25 plot they are talking about is part of that land, and compensation has not fully been paid, it is better for us to do away with just the 25 acres, the 25 plot, than holistic So that was why we have to source for this, for the further document, which shows the whole story about the land. And what we are saying is that 229 acres were taken. And even in that, the 229 acres that was taken, they were not compensated. They said they were not compensated, and there is nowhere that anybody signed that they were compensated. But if, without conceding, if we even agree that 143,000 naira was paid, which shows half of that particular land, and that is why we have to come up with this. So even if the 229 or that 25 plot is part of it, and they are not fully compensated, then it's supposed to revert back to the owner.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I think what Honorable Abiru was seeking clarification for, that the size of the land in question was about 1,000 something square meters. But from the explanation of the chairman, that part of it falls on Badagry Division and the old Western region, which means the 1,000 in question wasn't for the family who is now the petitioner. So, and out of the one that the petitioner agitating for, only 25 plots are available or used that can be easily be granted to the petitioner to save the state from incurring more costs in terms of financial. I think that is the idea behind the suggestion of the committee to allow the petitioner to take charge of the 25. If I get the what is it called, right, the position of the committee. Honorable, good evening. You still have something to say?
The question of Honorable Abiru, as per the petitioner asking for 16,000 square meters, has been taken care of by the chairman. Because if you look at the plot per square meter, it's on average about 600 square meter per plot. So, and if you not divide it by 16,
then it was even smaller.
Yes.
It wasn't then.
Yes. So plus or minus. When you now divide it, it's about 25, 26 plots. So which is still in line with his explanation, and that takes care of the request of the petitioner of 16,000 square meters.
In view of that, move motion for adoption of the. Yeah, Honorable, go ahead and move a motion for adoption.
Well, I hereby move the motion for the adoption.
Recommendation be adopted.
Oh, I hereby move that the recommendation of the committee should be adopted as the recommendation of the House.
As resolution of the House.
As resolution of the House.
Honorable Naim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion as moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those against, name, the ayes have it. Honorable Olowo.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague, good afternoon once again. Report of the committee of the six-man ad hoc committee on a bill for a law to amend the land use charge law 2018 and for connected purposes. The House at its plenary session on Monday, 19th March 2018.
Please go to general overview of the bill.
Okay, sir. With the leave of Mr. Speaker, I go to section 7.0. General overview of the bill. The majority leader, Honorable Agumbiade SOB, Ikorodu 1, presented the general overview of the bill. In his presentation, he pointed out that 8 sections of the principal law are being proposed for amendment in response to the agitations by the citizenry. He thereafter enjoined participants to make valuable contributions and comments that could assist the committee in order to enact a legislation that could stand the test of time. Observation. The general consensus of stakeholders and the participants at the forum applauded the leadership of the House and viewed the proposed amendment to land use charge law as another milestone indicator of the sensitivity of the House to the plight of the residents of the state. However, the following observations were made by the committee from the submissions of participants at the forum. Roman figure 1. The increase is generally perceived to be arbitrary and unrealistic in a recessed economy, and the state government should revert to status quo of the land use charge for 2017. 2. The interpretation section, there is need to define what market value is and how it is determined. 3. Still in section 1 under interpretation 3 and 4, delete a parcel of land. 4. In section 1 subsection 2, pensioners should be redefined to include all retirees resident in the state from federal and state institutions and from both private and corporate organizations domiciled in the state. Roman figure 5. In section 8, there is need to insert of LASCA, LASPA, or LASEPA after the word officer for clarity purpose. 6. There is need for the creation of a new educational institution in section 12. 7. Sections 3, 5, 6 are inconsistent with the provision of section 7 subsection 5 and item I of the fourth schedule of the 99 Constitution as amended, which mandate the local government to collect tenement rates and land use charges. There is no basis for upward delegation of power from the local governments to the state government. Delegation is conventionally top-down and not vice versa. 9. Vacant plots of land and occupied properties should be exempted from the land use charge levies. 10. Section 9. Occupier of a lease less than 10 years yet to be exempted from the land use charge liabilities. 11. In section 15, subsection 7, appeals should not be limited to the Lagos State High Court, but to include Federal High Court in the state. 12. Section 17 CI. There is no need for 50% payment by an aggrieved owners over disputed charges before their eligibility to appeal. 13. Aggrieved residents or owners should pay the preceding year's charges while the disputed charges are being resolved. 15. Still in section 17, there is need for the inclusion of an estate surveyor and valuer among assessment appeal tribunal in section 17. 15. Section 22(1) A to C to be amended as follows. A. 25% surcharge to be reduced to 12%. B. 50% surcharge to be reduced to 20%. While C. 100% surcharge to be reduced to 40%. Section 16. Section 22, subsection 2 should be deleted completely. 17. In section 24, subsection 2, 30 days to be replaced with 60 days to allow for more grace period. Section 30A and B should be deleted. Delete schedule titled Rules Governing the Distribution of the Lagos State Land Use Charge. Recommendations, sir. 8.1. Under the interpretation section, define the following words. Commissioner means the Commissioner for Finance or a member of the State Executive Council, shall with the responsibility for finance. Governor means the Governor of Lagos State. Local government area includes local council development area. Ministry means Ministry of Finance, and partial relief means a reduction of the total amount of land use charges to be paid against a property. 2. delete market value and insert value, and also where it appears in the bill. Still in section 1, delete the definition of pensioner completely and replace it with a new definition, thus, a person who retires from a pensionable office. Delete section 9(2) of the old law, now section 6, and replace as follows. The owner of the property is liable to pay land use charge in respect of any taxable property. Delete section 17 and replace as follows with a side note, establishment of an assessment appeal tribunal. 15(1). The governor shall establish an assessment appeal and a tribunal which shall consist of not less than 8 members. The governor shall appoint one of the members as its chairman. A minimum 3 members shall constitute a panel of the tribunal. 4. Members of the tribunal shall hold office for such period as may be prescribed by the governor and be paid such allowances as the governor may determine. 5. The tribunals so established under these provisions of this law shall be set up and commence operating within 1 month of the commencement of this law. 6. Delete and redraft section 5 to read, as from the commencement of this law, there shall be proper classification of commercial and residential properties in the state for the purpose of levying charges in accordance with the provisions of this law by the property identification officers of the ministry. 7. Delete the phrase Commissioner for Finance and replace with Commissioner wherever it appears in the bill. 8. Create a new section 8 with the side note, chargeable fees to read 1. As from the commencement of this law, there shall be 20% increase from the fees chargeable before the repeal of the Land Use Charge Law, Chapter L79 of 2015. 2. The increment referred to in subsection 1 above shall be renewable every 5 years. 9. Delete the word executive in section 10(1)(e), line 1. 10. Redraft section 71(b) to read, any calculation of an amount liable to be paid as land use charge, and the tribunal will make such decision as it deems fit. 11. Redraft section 25 to read, on and from the date when the land use charge is levied on a property in accordance with this law, the provisions of the assessment law, land rates law, neighborhood improvement charge law, and any amendments made pursuant to it shall cease to apply to that property. 12. Redraft section 26 to read, the tenement rates law, Cap T2, Law of Lagos State 2003, and the land use charge law 2018 are repealed. 13. Delete the figures 2019 and replace with 2020 wherever it appears in the bill. Delete schedule titled Rules Governing the Distribution of the Lagos State Land Use Charge. Conclusion. The committee expresses profound gratitude to the Speaker, Right Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, and members for the confidence reposed in the committee to carry out this onerous assignment, and to the Clerk of the House and the Secretariat team for the completion of the report. Signed, Honorable Olowo R.E Emmanuel, Chairman, 6-man ad hoc committee on land use charge. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Danyim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hereby move that the report be adopted for debate.
Honorable Lua.
I hereby second.
All in favor say aye. All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Who goes first? Honorable Agubiade.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to observe that this House discussed the issue of land use charge at several times, and the report so presented now represents the mood and the opinion that have been variously canvassed, also taking into consideration the suggestions of those that attended the public hearing. In view of that, Mr. Speaker, I wish to propose that the report is so straightforward and representing our views, we should be allowed to adopt the recommendations as the resolution of the House without any further delay, Mr. Speaker. That's my observation.
Honorable Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Without no further ado, I would like to support, second the motion as...
There's no motion on ground. Before we go to that...
The proposal, rather.
Well, if all of us, those who have their lights on and with view to follow the path of majority leader...
Observation, Mr. Speaker.
Observation. Observing me?
No, sir.
Huh?
I was observing him, but he didn't see me at that time.
Okay. Okay, I'm coming to that. Just put your lights on. So I have reservation about some things stated there in the recommendation, and that is number 7, item 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, going by what we have here will be contrary to the position of this House and the state. So those are the areas that I want to raise issue. I don't know what Honorable Abiru has to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, sir. I was also going to call your attention to recommendation number 15 on that 80. No.
18, section 30, A and B.
No, sir. No, sir. Recommendation number 5. Establishment of the appeal tribunal, sir. I was just going to observe that there are...
Where is that?
Page,
15.
Yes, 15, sir. 15,
okay,
1. Yes, sir. Where they proposed that the assessment appeal tribunal should consist of 8 members. I just want to say that usually we have odd numbers so that when there's a tie, the chairman decides. Because as it is, they're also proposing that one of the members should come as the chairman. So I wish to say that the tribunal should consist of about 7, 9, or odd numbers, sir.
Okay, they should make it 7 then.
Thank you very much, sir. That's my observation.
Honorable Satanji.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Also on the same area, section 15, subsection 4, members of the tribunal shall hold office for such period as may be prescribed by the governor. I think what we have already been saying that we have already been specifying a particular tenure for them.
I agree with you. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Honorable Saka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My observation is on under recommendation, the owners of the property should be occupiers or owners, where the owners is not around and the tenants, they sometimes they decide that the owners is, we don't know the name of the owners, we take the property from the caretakers. But then if it is owners or occupier, where they default, both of them is liable.
No, occupier may not be liable. Occupier could, well, I think there are some items in this report that we just have to look at again. You know, as I said, number 8, section 365, inconsistent with provision 4 schedule 99 constitution, which mandated local government to collect tenement entry. Fine, nobody is disputing that, but where there is an understanding between the states for efficiency and effectiveness, so there is nothing wrong with such arrangements. And this has been in place for quite some time, and it has been very helpful even to the local governments, because I can assure you that no local governments has the wherewithal to collect this revenue we are talking about. So I think we should remove that. Then vacant plots of land and unoccupied property should be accepted. Doesn't mean it doesn't belong to the owners. Property is a property. It does not matter if we know we can identify or we can't identify. As long as it is a property where it's a source of fund or revenue to the owner. So we cannot accept such property from being taxed. In fact, that we even work contrary to our position that any abandoned property should be taken over by the government. So there shouldn't be any property that should be left without identifying the owner. So we can say, and one other one, the retirees. Well, if you categorize retirees, what about those who did not work with the government, parastatals, or institutions? Are they going to be considered as retirees? Or are we going to divide age or give age limits that this set of people? So you can't sectionalize whatever decision you are taking. That should be general. You can't say those who work with the government should be accepted, while those who worked on their own should be left for the to bear the consequence. So I think all these items, we just have to look at them and address them. I don't think they are sound enough for us. So, Honorable Abiru, stay on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I was just going to respond on the issue of pensioner as defined here. I mean, what the law is saying is that anybody that is pensionable, now irrespective of where you work, federal, state, private, once you are pensionable, I think it covers all.
Once you are pensionable, what will happen? Let us we'll hear from them to explain what they do. But from what I've read here, I don't think it's like, considering group of people within the state, while you are leaving the rest to bear the brunt. So if you want to consider those, at least when you talk about pensionable, those who have attained age of 6, in fact, there are some who are not up to, if you have worked 10 years or 15 years, if I'm right, you are entitled to pension. You can decide not to work with the government again. So it's a thing we need to look at properly. Honorable Yishawu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to reinforce your position as the item 3 of the recommendation that describe pensioner, except from a pensionable office. Does it occur to the committee that we are not in a pensionable job? So even if at my 80 years, they will still be charging me. It's too restrictive. It should be enlarged and defined by age. 60 years, 55 years, that will be okay.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Well, we want to speak to that recommendation number 9 on vacant plot and unoccupied property. I think we can talk to the other aspect, which is the unoccupied properties. But while the vacant plots at that point in time, since it's a land use charge and there is no building on it, that should be exempted. So because the land itself is a vacant plot and there is no, yes, when they want to, Mr. Speaker, sir, when they want to do the calculation of land use charge, they measure the building on it and they now calculate it out. Not, that is the portion that is being built, not the vacant plot. That is why they came across about the final calculation. So if the land is still vacant, it's not really in use.
No,
so
what about ground rent or what else do we have? It's not when you talk about land use tax, it's not just only one item.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, when you go to the law in full, because it has just been pointed to the amended area, they did the calculation by mentioning the building, the square meter of the area occupied by the building on that land. Yes. And that is what they measure out to calculate the final figure.
Where there is no building on
nothing on it, they don't pay. Even in a used plot, they don't pay for it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Where the land is fake and there is no building on it, are you saying there is no consideration for what to be paid on the such land?
Well, that such land, it is still not captured under this under the land use charge. It is being referred to if the land is having C of O. You know, there is a grant rent.
That's what I'm saying.
That one is still paying on it, but the land use charge cannot take that.
Okay, where does the ground rent go to?
Where does it go to? The ground rent
if it is not taken care in this law, where does it?
Any building, any property that has building on it, the land use charge is applicable. Where it does not, the ground rent go to the state directly. It has nothing to do with the local government. And that is the position of that of this law. And that is the general operational law in that area.
I think that is
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I think that we can still take care of the unoccupied properties, and that will stand. But the vacant plot, unoccupied property, yes, I agree with that.
That's what?
With that we should, since it has been built.
Is there provision in this? That's what I'm saying. In this
law, as to the unoccupied property. Yeah. Yes, I think because it is the building that is going to be measured. Since the building is in it, and what we have used here is that since nobody's building is living there and it's not being subjected to any commercial usage, but you have made a superior argument by saying that it has been built, so you know, and it should be paid for.
Okay, Honorable Agubiade.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, I want to speak to the issue you raised with respect to talking of delegation upwards and or downwards. I think the issue raised falls within observation. An observation not captured by the recommendation, I think, goes to no issue, since we have resolved. So I think they just highlighted observations made, but it's not captured in the recommendation. So it goes to no issue, as well as all other things under the observation that are not captured in the recommendation. That's the observation I want to make, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Makinde.
Thank you, sir. I think the issue of vacant plot and unoccupied property, there are two different things. But in the case of a vacant plots can be put into use without necessarily having structure on it. You have a lot of vacant plots that are being used for car wash. Some are even using for parking.
No, he has concurred on that. They've agreed that there's something, so we don't have to. And I think one other one, the last page, where you suggest 5 years. The increments referred to in subsection 1 above shall be renewable every 5 years. I think it should be put for, I think 10 years should be every 10 years. Instead of 5 years. 5 years is not, I don't think,
or we can also put periodically, because sometimes, you know, exigency may want to warrant. So if we say periodically.
Periodically, to renew the increments.
Yes, periodically, without necessarily putting a certain number of years.
Mr. Speaker,
sir. I think I'm suggesting that the 5 years is too short, that we should look at something like 10 years. We don't, when we talk about taxing people, we also consider the economic situation. So face to face, you know, we just don't, at least we try to create a relief period as well. So Honorable Gundi.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. 5-year periodical review does not really mean increment.
Does not?
Only mean increment. Right. It can stay where it is. It can go up or down.
Oh, they can relieve upward or downward.
Exactly.
Well, I think our people usually prefer upward. So it will be difficult to see people argue for downward review, or else it will be permanent. So let us just face it. They can continue with their review. You know, I think like he observed, valuation should be something regular, because it's one of the indices to be considered when you are thinking about the economy of the state or the nation. So for information's sake and any other purposeful reasons. So, but just let us fix it at 10. At least we have it that, okay, every 10 years there will be. Honorable Ibrahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the context explained by Honorable Gudibu now, the word renew will not fit into that context.
Will not?
The word renew will not fit into the context. We rather use the word review, sir. Review is more appropriate, sir.
Review or renew, it suggests the same thing at the end of the day. Is it that you are increasing or decreasing?
The renew is stereotype.
Yeah.
What is renewal? It means something that is existed, that is sought to be made anew. But when it's review, it will be made up, down.
We have not reviewed anything downward. It's always upward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I share your fears, especially when you look at the proposal we have here, 8.2. What it reads exactly is the increment referred to in subsection 1. So it's not going down, it's not staying, it's going upward. Above shall be renewable every 5 years.
So it will be going up.
So it's definitely up. So it's better it's 10 years. Another advantage of what you are saying, Mr. Speaker, is since the value of a house can change over time, it will adjust technically for whatever value the person is getting. So the rates can...
Let's leave it 10 years. When they want to renew, they come back to the house. If it is downward to amend, they will. Any other new thing? Yeah, I think there's one. Which other one do I have? Well, any other new thing? Yeah, no, Ibrahim. I think that has been taken care of.
That has been explained.
Oh, it has been taken care of. It's not part of the recommendation, so we don't need to worry. Honorable Gudimu, nothing. Okay, let's, Honorable Abiru, motion for adoption.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I hereby move that the recommendation of the committee as amended be taken as a resolution of the House. I so move.
Be taken as what? Honorable Abiru.
I said, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I hereby move that the
Recommendations.
the recommendation of the committee as amended be taken as the resolution of the House. I so move.
Thank you, but we are used to adopted. There's consistency in the parliament.
Taking, sir. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Victor Akande.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All in favor say ayes. Aye. Those against no, the ayes have it. Yeah, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the purpose for which the House dissolved the Committee of the Whole has been accomplished. I therefore wish to move that the House reverts to plenary. I so move.
Honorable Tebitokwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise second motion as well.
All in favor say ayes. Those against no, the ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, at the Committee of the Whole, the House
took the presentations
of the Committee of Finance in respect of report on Land Use Charge Amendment Bill 2019. The recommendations of the committee were adopted as the resolution of the House. Also, the House took the presentation of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Public Petitions, led by Honorable Akande, in respect of a petition on unlawful encroachment on Andoyi, Alashe Chieftaincy family for the second allotted day. The recommendations of the committee were also adopted as the resolution of the House. Mr. Speaker, I wish to state that these are what transpired at the Committee of the Whole. Thank you.
Honorable Olowo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to affirm that the recap is a true reflection of what transpired at the Committee of the Whole.
Honorable Nayu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the affirmation.
All in favor, say ayes. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, having dealt with matter at the Committee of the Whole, the next we have is the presentation of report in respect of Appropriation Bill 2020. To be able to deal with these, I wish to move that the House dissolve to Committee of Supply. I so move.
Honorable Temitope.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved.
All in favor, say ayes. Aye. All in favor, say ayes. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Yishawu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Take us to the highlights. Highlights of the year 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Highlights of year 2020 budget bill. The highlights of the year 2020 budget bill is as follows. Total proposed budget size is 1,168,562,000,000 naira. Proposed total personnel cost 167,814,000,000 naira. Proposed recurrent debt 39,692,000,000 naira. Proposed total overhead cost 237,551,000,000 naira. Proposed capital expenditure 723,505,000,000 naira. Proposed total revenue 1,071,029,000,000,000 naira. Deficit funding source, we have 97,533,000,000 naira. Mr. Speaker, sir, the state, Mr. Speaker, if you permit me, please, can I move straight to observation, please? Thank you. Observations. Over a 3-week period of engaging MDAs, the committee observed as follows. 1, the need to increase the revenue of LIRS, Lagos Internal Revenue Service, by 47,493,901 naira. 2, there is need to create budget line personnel being 63,846,725 naira, overhead being 221,100,000, and capital 199,400,000 for debt management office. 3, the need for the sum of 2 billion naira to be added to the head LSHA facility management under the year 2020 capital expenditure of the Lagos State Infrastructure Asset Management Agency. 4, the need to add school support funds to overhead costs for Education District 1 by 3,888,000, Education District 2 by 1,440,000, District 3 by 3.6 million, District 4 by 2,376,000, District 5 by 1,008,000, and District 6 by 1,080,000. The need, number 5, the need to create budget line senior secondary school running costs for 328 senior secondary schools in the education districts 1 to 6 by removing the existing lines from each of their overhead costs and increasing same to 250,000 naira monthly. 6, the need to create capital expenditure line for education districts 1 to 6 with a sum of 20,000 naira each. 7, 20 million naira each, sorry about that, 20 million naira each. The need to increase the overhead cost for junior school running cost to 250,000 naira monthly for 347 junior secondary schools in the state. 8, the need to reduce the capital expenditure of Andoyi Ogunsoya College of Education by 1 billion. 9, the need to reduce the capital expenditure of Lagos State Polytechnic by 3 billion. 10, the need to reduce the dedicated revenue / expenditure of Michael Otedola College of Primary Education by 45 million and its capital expenditure by 2.5 billion. 11, the need to increase the subvention of State Universal Basic Education Board (SUBEB) by 792,480,000 naira for the head schools and local government education authority expenses. 12, the need to increase the subvention and capital expenditure of Lagos State Waste Management Authority (LOMA) by 3,914,775,000 naira and 1.7 billion naira respectively. 13, the need to increase the subvention of LOMA capacity building by 85,251,992 naira. 14, the need to increase the subvention of LOMA domestic PSP subsidy gap by 859,340,083 naira. 15, the need to increase the subvention of LOMA public school waste by 108,670,407 naira. 16, the need to increase the subvention of LOMA medical waste for public health facilities by 137,085,204 naira. 17, the need to increase the subvention of LOMA landfill by 480,962,151 naira. 18, the need to increase the subvention of LOMA marine waste by 81,841,913 naira only. 19, the need to increase the subvention of LOMA waste collection CBD by 150,384,514 naira. 20, the need to increase the subvention of LOMA enlightenment and advocacy by 88,600,000 662,072 naira. 21. They need to increase the subvention of Loma Public School Waste Program by 93,205,511 naira. 22. They need to reduce the capital expenditure digitalization of LTV, Eco FM, traffic radio in the Ministry of Information and Strategy by 401,784,763 naira. 13. They need to increase the capital expenditure of Lagos television services by 167,085,387 naira 54 kobo. 14. They need to increase the capital expenditure of Lagos radio services by 133,583,184 naira 70 kobo. 25. They need to create the capital expenditure line for Lagos traffic radio with the sum of 101,116,190 naira 76 kobo. 26. They need to increase the revenue, CRF, and dedicated revenue / expenditure of Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, LSHA, by 360 million and 150 million respectively. 27. They need to reduce the subvention of Lagos Bus Services Limited by 516,225,242 naira. 28. They need to reduce the strategic road in Ekpe under the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure by the sum of 1.3 billion naira. 29. They need to create a new line for Kajola Bogije Road in Ebejuleki with the sum of 1.3 billion naira in the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. 30. They need to increase the capital expenditure of the Ministry of Works by 300 million naira for the construction of new roads and bridges. 31. They need to increase the vote head, development of heritage centers and upgrading of Lagos Museum and others under the capital expenditure of the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture with a sum of 500 million naira. 32. They need to increase the overhead of the Office of Civic Engagement by 350 million. 33. They need to increase the revenue and capital expenditure of Lagos State Water Regulatory Commission by 304,207,773 naira only, each respectively. 34. They need to increase the revenue, CRF, reduce the subvention, and add dedicated revenue / expenditure of the office to the Office of Administrator General by 3 million, 10 million, and 10 million respectively. 35. They need to reduce the subvention and increase the capital expenditure of Ibile Oil and Gas by 475,940,400 naira respectively. 36. They need to increase the overhead cost and capital expenditure of Lagos State Sports Commission by 2 billion and 100 million respectively. 37. They need to add the sum of 3,115,697,840 naira to the capital expenditure construction of 4 stadia under the Lagos State Sports Commission. 38. They need to increase the capital expenditure high tension power for hospitals in the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources Development with a sum of 512,628,000 naira. 39. They need to increase the capital expenditure of the Office of Drainage and Water Resources by the sum of 1,448,634,423 naira. 40. They need to increase the personnel cost of the House of Assembly by the sum of 29,188,000 93 naira. 41. The need to increase the overhead and capital expenditure of the Office of Auditor General of Local Government by 24 million and 50 million respectively. Kindly correct to 50 million, please. 42. The need to increase the overhead and capital expenditure of Audit Service Commission by 70 million and 35 million respectively. 43. The need to increase the revenue and reduce the capital expenditure, channelization and buoys in the Ministry of Waterfront Development by 834 million, 900,000 and 2 billion naira respectively. 44. The need to increase the capital expenditure of Lagos State Water Corporation by the sum of 1,250 million. 45. The need to increase the overhead and capital expenditure of Judicial Service Commission by 56 million, 816,000 and 30 million naira respectively. 46. The need to reduce the revenue and capital expenditure of Lagos State High Court by 1 billion each respectively, and place the Lagos State High Court capital expenditure on first line charge for capital expenditure. 47. The need to move the sum of 1,178,352,000 naira from the capital expenditure to subvention for LSHA election project of the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission. 48. The need to increase the revenue, CRF, capital expenditure and subvention of the Lagos State Resident Registration Agency, LSHA, by 6,749,750,000 naira, 1,997,764,800,000 and 48,640,000 naira respectively. 49. The need to reduce the capital expenditure of Lagos State Waterways Authority, LSHA, by 1 billion naira. 50. The need to increase the capital expenditure of Lagos State Urban Renewal Authority, LASURA, by 3 billion naira. 51. The need to increase the capital expenditure of LASU accreditation, Lagos State University, by 474 million naira. 52. The need to increase the capital expenditure of Ministry of Local Government and Community Affairs by the sum of 1 billion naira. 53. There is a need to increase the subvention of Center for Rural Development by 3,731,461 naira. 54. The need to reduce the revenue and increase the capital expenditure of Lagos State Physical Planning Permit Authority, LSPA, by the sum of 8,466,857,773 naira and 1 billion naira respectively. 55. The need to reduce the capital expenditure of the Ministry of Housing for the new housing projects by 5,098,696,278 naira 68 kobo. 56. They need to roll over the sum of 15,473,793 naira year 2019 capital expenditure of Lagos State Mortgage Board into its year 2020 capital expenditure. 57. They need to increase the capital expenditure of Lands Bureau by 300 million naira. 58. They need to reduce the revenue, overhead and capital expenditure of the Ministry of Health by 255,875,000, 112,450,996 naira and 280,975,790 naira respectively. 59. The need to create revenue CRF 44,700,000 naira, dedicated revenue expenditure 11,175,000. Overhead 52,450,996 naira, and capital expenditure 137,710,000 naira for Lagos State Blood Transfusion Services. 60. The need to create revenue CRF 140 million dedicated revenue / expenditure 60 million, overhead 80 million, and capital expenditure 143,265,790 naira for health facility monitoring and accreditation agency. 61. They need to create revenue CRF 1.2 billion for the Lagos State Development Property Corporation LSDPC. 62. They need to reduce the revenue CRF of Number Plate Production Authority MPPA by 2 billion and create a dedicated revenue / expenditure line with the sum of 2 billion naira and remove the capital expenditure and subvention respectively. 63. They need to merge the heads retrofitting of all public lighting installation from HPS/LD, rehabilitation / maintenance of street lights LSEB, LEDCO MAPB, and installation of new street lights as rehabilitation / installation of street lights, and add the sum of 3,243,383,177 naira 44 kobo in the Lagos State Electricity Board LSEB. 64. They need to increase the capital expenditure and subvention of the Lagos State Printing Corporation by 351,804,000 naira and 97,506,655 naira respectively. 65. They need to reduce the global trading vote in the Ministry of Establishment, Training and Pensions by 2 billion. 66. They need to create capital expenditure line for the Office of Education Quality Assurance with a sum of 226,610,200 naira. 67. They need to create a budget line for Special Committee on Rehabilitation of Schools, SCRIPS, under the Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget with a sum of 215,500,000 naira for capital expenditure and 142 million naira as subvention. 68. They need to create a budget line for SCRIPS renovation / furniture domiciled in the Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget with a sum of 4,750 million naira for capital expenditure. 69. They need to increase the subvention of Lagos ferry services by 240 million naira. 70. They need to increase the capital expenditure of the Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Relations by 125 million naira. 71. They need to change the title of completion of ongoing LMDGP to completion of ongoing LMGDP, further any roads and others, and increase by 1 billion naira. 72. They need to reduce the counterpart funding by 13,221,363,798 naira. 73. They need to reduce the overhead and capital expenditure of contingency reserves MEPB by 378,955,414 naira and 5.8 billion naira respectively. 74. They need to reduce the capital expenditure of special expenditure in the Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget by 5 billion naira. 75. They need to reduce the external loan and increase the internal loan of deficit funding sources by 17,804 million naira respectively. 76. They need to move subvention of Office of Public procurement agency to overhead. 77, the need to change the title of the following. 1, special expenditure orders to statewide for office furniture and equipment. 2, completion of ongoing projects LMGDP to completion of ongoing project LMGDP, Fadaini and others. 3, LSHA election projects to LSHA election matters. 4, retrofitting of all public lighting, rehabilitation / maintenance of street lighting, LSEB, LEDCO, MEPB, and installation of new street lights to rehabilitation / installation of street lights. And 5, Lagos Bus Service Limited, public transport infrastructure, MEPB, to public transport infrastructure. 78, the need to delete the following redundant lines from the omnibus. Mr. Speaker, I can wish to crave your indulgence to skip all that. Mr. Speaker, the recommendation is just put in effect to all the observations. I don't know if I can crave your indulgence that the observation I've read out should suffice as the recommendation of a committee on this matter, so that I can go straight to the sums of the budget.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The sum of 457 billion 528 million 914,805 naira be approved as the new total recurrent expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2020. That the sum of 711 billion 32 million 979,185 naira be approved as the new total capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2020. That the year 2020 approved budget size be 1,168 billion 561 million 893,990 naira. Conclusion. The Joint Committee expresses its gratitude to Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, and the entire honorable members of the House for the opportunity afforded members of the Joint Committee and the Secretariat to work on the year 2020 appropriation bill presented by the Governor of Lagos State. Our appreciation also goes to Mr. Clark and the entire House bureaucracy for their support. We hope that the recommendations herein would be approved. Thank you.
Who is adopting? Honorable Noyim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I hereby move that the report be adopted. Thank you.
For debate.
For debate.
Honorable Sonny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second as moved.
All in favor say ayes. All in favor say ayes. Those against nay. The ayes have it. Who goes first? Honorable Tobo.
Thank you, sir. Well, I just want to observe, sir, that item 28, where the sum of 1,300,000,000 was removed from the strategic road in Ekpe, and the same amount the same thing, under recommendation. And the same amount was proposed for new capital held for Kajola Bogije Road in Ibejuleki. Well, according to the proposal sent to the House by the Ministry, they make provisions for about 9 billion for statewide rehabilitation of ongoing projects across the state. And they make provision for 35 billion for new roads and bridges. The strategic road in Epe are ongoing project, which was subsumed under the worldwide rehabilitation of ongoing projects. Why the Kajola road is a new project? So I feel accommodating the new project should be from the capital provision made for the new projects and bridges. Because the strategic road in Epe, I think they are still holding the contractor up to 15 billion. So if the value released is about 1.6 billion, that shows that the second phase that is ongoing, that is linking Ogun State, we may not likely to achieve it. And the second layers of the asphalt that we're supposed to lay to cover what has been expended on that road may become a waste. I agree that Kajola Bogije Road equally require attention, but I think that could be taken care of under the new roads and bridges rather than removing the money from ongoing projects. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Abiru.
Hello. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to commend the committee for doing a great job. However, Mr. Speaker, I wish to seek some clarification from the committee on a number of issues, sir. Firstly, sir, is item, I think it's 30, on page 5, item 30 XLBII, that is 38. They need to move the sum of 1.178 billion from the capital expenditure to subvention of LSHA. I would not know what informed this decision, because I am not aware that there is an election coming up in year 2020, and I